And welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. When we left off, we had just recovered our crew that had landed on Lethe and Eeloo. Two very difficult missions. Now it is time to go plant the flag on Eeloo, which is not a simple mission, because the intercept with Eeloo is quite difficult. So the first thing that we're going to have to do is we're going to have to build a mission. Now, the way I'm going to go about this, I am going to start with our Talos X that has been really a bit of a workhorse. But we're gonna clean up some of this nonsense. All right. So this is our base, and we don't need any of this. But what we do need is a lander. Now, I had toyed with the idea of oh, that's not good. I had toyed with the idea of launching the lander separately, the way I have with some of the other missions. But I decided for this one, I don't want to do that. I just want to do one launch, because it'll be quicker and easier once we've launched. You know, the actual flying of the mission will be a lot simpler. And that's kind of what I'm going for with this one. So let me just do some of this with the lander. Now we need a couple other things I want to do here. I want to clean up while I'm working on it. Okay. Now, we also need a descent stage. Now, we're in sort of a weird spot, and I'm going to have to, I think, fix some of the staging on this stuff, like, in situ when we're out there. Because we're in kind of a weird spot where we're going to have to move this rocket very high into the vehicle assembly building in order to actually build our booster underneath it, because this is by far going to be the most significant booster that we have needed to make and launch, I think. And it's purely just because of how far away Eeloo is. And we're going to be launching not only our Talos X, but all this extra weight. All this crap is going to be going too. So, now I also, sometimes when I do Eeloo, I'm not going to for this. But I'm just mentioning it as like an idea. Because I've gotten a few emails from people asking questions or talking about this series, mentioning that they've been sort of using using some of my missions as like some inspiration for theirs, and that's cool. So what I was where I'm kind of going with that is, I very often, when I'm going to Eeloo, in addition to all this, I will bring a probe with me and leave it in orbit, a communications relay. Just to have one out there. But with this mission, I'm not going to bother doing that. I'm just going to do a fairly conventional mission out to Eeloo. Now, I'm also going to be doing RCS for the first time in a while. And that'll make sense when you see why. All right. Because the RCS is actually going to be used not just for turning our rocket, but we're actually going to use that for some very fine adjustments to our trajectory when we are plotting the intercept with Eeloo. The intercept with Eeloo is probably the hardest intercept in the game. I would go so far as to say there is no question it is the hardest intercept in the game. And one of the things that'll make it easier is that when we're doing our maneuver nodes, one of the things that can make it easier is if when we're doing our maneuver nodes, we can get kind of close to Eeloo or maybe get an intercept. And then instead of trying to spin around and use engine bursts in order to fine-tune our intercept, make sure we're coming in on the right side of the planet, all that kind of stuff, we'll just use little RCS puffs. Nice and gentle. Not even 1 meter per second of delta V. Doesn't have to be anything heavy, and it'll still be more than enough. All right, now this is kind of a tough part. All right, there we go. Now let's get. Now I realize I'm going way overboard with some of the asparagus stuff here, but when I get en route, you'll understand why. Because all this junk that we're carrying up on top really is a pretty significant amount of weight. Yes, let me just look at something. Yeah, it's kind of what I thought. All right. Anyway, and we really we need this mission to be engineered a little bit more beefy than normal. As much as I hate to have to. Very analogous to the sort of stuff we were doing going to Eeloo, sending the lander to Eeloo, the descent stage. All right. Now, this is where... Whoops. Let me make sure this staging is correct. Yes. All right, so now I have to get this monstrosity on its way to Eeloo. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to build the fairing down here, then move the whole thing up. Oh, actually, you know what? Before any of that, and I have something else I needed to do. We need more RTGs. And that is because primarily because the solar power out near Eeloo is so reduced compared to what it is like, you know, closer in the solar system. And those extra RTGs are actually going to make a really big difference in terms of our ability to do the retro burns and stuff like that when it comes time to come back to Kerbal and everything. Okay. Now I need to build the fairing. Come on. Okay. Now that the fairing is constructed, it's time to move this up as high as it'll go so that we can make one heck of a booster. All right. Now let's get the big tanks. Now we're going to need one of these. And we're going to want one of these. And we're going to move it up a little bit. Because at this point, saving weight, saving height is an extremely important part of the design. Oh, too short. All right. Now, this joint here is likely to be an extreme weak point in this design. So I'm gonna build a little bit more of an extra set of struts doing like a little truss structure and whatnot. And this is purely just to try and get a bunch of extra stability between these two stages. Because it may seem like what I'm doing here is crazy stuff, but I promise this is actually going to be really important. All right. Now, that big truss of extra struts with chunky rocket like this is actually going to matter a lot. So now what we're going to do is we're going to build our engine cluster like you've seen me do before. And it's going to be exactly the same. Then we're just going to set that aside and get another big honking fuel tank. Oh. A little too tall. No big deal. Okay. All right, now what was this? Oh, we don't need that. And that. Okay, yeah, that'll go in there. Now we need... Oh, almost forgot. We want to strut the heck out of that. Okay. Oh, come on. Let me get under there. Let me get under there. Fighting the UI. Let me see if I can get this up any higher. Okay. All right. And believe it or not, that's actually a very good way to use these launch clamps. All right, now we're gonna build a very similar booster to what we sent along with our Eeloo lander. This is going to be a pretty big, pretty chunky booster. There we go. All right. And some more of that. And again, that's might not seem like it, but that is an extremely effective way to do launch clamps on large rockets like this. Very effective. As a matter of fact, whenever I do a Soviet space program themed career, I always use that method to strut the N1, to launch clamp the N1. Speaking of struts, have some more struts. Have a lot more struts. Hey. Connect. There we go. All right, now we did our fuel flow. We did our struts. Definitely going to need a little bit of extra aerodynamic stability. Never hurts. And we'll save this as the Eeloo mission. And we may end up sending something very similar to Moho. Now, and again, this is just extra overkill for good measure. We're going to strap on a pair of Clydesdales. Oh, actually, wait a minute. Before that. You might remember how effective this was. That actually ends up being a very good way to make sure that these boosters go clear. Okay. That should suffice, I think. All right, so now we do the Clydesdales. And again, I'm putting those down a little bit, purely so that the little engine bell there's no chance of it like colliding with something. And we will strut this as best we can. And these are there literally just to provide a bit of extra thrust to weight ratio. Because this rocket is going to have a very low thrust to weight ratio on takeoff. Very low. And we'll get some Separatrons going just for a good measure. Alright, now we just need launch clamp. And I think we're ready. Oh, look at the cost, 1.6 million. Oh. Good thing I have a generous amount of funding. Alright. Oh, now let me clear out some of this crew. I need 2 pilots and someone else. Alright, so let's take a scientist who only has 1 star. Alright, here's a pilot who has 4 stars, but only the very beginning of it. And, alright, here's just another pilot. Almost got 5 stars. Alright, am I forgetting anything? I don't think so. Oh! Look at the weight! Oh, man. Yeah, this is a chunky rocket. Let's see if it explodes immediately upon loading into physics. Come on. Come on. Okay, we are in physics and did not explode. I have to say that this actually looks pretty good. Just visually. For such a big, ridiculous, overkill improvised rocket. Now, on takeoff, I'm going to be going full throttle for thrust-to-weight ratio so that I don't fall back into the launch pad. But, here we go. Oh, is this barely getting off the ground? This is what the Clydesdales are for. Once I get cooking a little bit, I'm going to pull back on the liquid fuel throttle. Again, to make sure that the Clydesdales burn out before our liquid fuel stages do. And by the time we're done with the Clydesdales, we will have dumped enough fuel to maintain our thrust-to-weight ratio. Alright, little, just tiny bit of gravity turn. The wobble isn't quite so bad. I'm gonna cut back on the throttle a little bit. Alright, that slowed us down more than I wanted, so I'm gonna go back up, we'll punch it. Alright, gonna pull back a little bit now. My goal is to hit at least 300 meters per second by the time we ditch the Clydesdales. And it looks like we're gonna get there pretty easily. And again, I'm being very, very gentle with my control inputs and the gravity turn. Because I don't want this rocket to start to fall over. You might have noticed it's kind of chunky. Alright, we're almost ready for solid booster separation. Which of course means I want to punch my throttle to get away from the solid boosters as quickly as I can after I jettison them. Uh-oh. What did we lose? Alright, we had an explosion in back, but it doesn't seem like we lost anything. So, okay. Now, my hope is to be above the Kármán line for apoapsis, above 70,000 meters by the time we ditch our liquid fuel boosters. And it looks like we're probably going to get there. Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah, those small solid rocket boosters work really well as like jumbo-size Separatrons. All right. Now see, all these struts are paying off. This would be like a Wobble Master 10,000 right now if I didn't have that extra strut cage. Alright, so our apoapsis is over 100,000. We're burning straight horizontal. My hope is to push up to around 150, 160, and then go up to circularize. And we will now ditch our fairing, which is dead weight from this point. And this stage really does have an enormous amount of thrust. And doing this, and now I'm hesitant to do a lot of physics warping with this rocket still fully assembled like this. That's why I haven't sped up this burn at all. It's purely just because I'm terrified of the Kraken. So I'll probably speed up this section in editing, even though I'm not going to speed it up in the game. Okay, we're in a good stable orbit and we're quick saved, so I'm going to deploy some solar panels. Now it's time to start thinking about getting to Eeloo. Now, I want Eeloo to be around here when I burn from here for an intersect out here. So I'm going to have to time warp a bit. I'm guessing 2 years, maybe? Maybe 3? But unlike our mission to Eeloo, I'm not as concerned about Delta V, mainly because I have an enormous amount in those nuclear stages. So I'm just gonna burn out of Kerbal, get into orbit around the sun, and do it my normal way. You know, it's slightly less efficient on Delta V. Oh, and I hate to time warp a big thing like this, but I gotta spin it around. So I want to squeeze that extra 300 meters per second of Delta V out of my core stage. That worked out pretty well. I mean, I'm circularized. I've still got a little bit of Delta V left in our core. It's not bad. I love using that trick to cancel out rotational momentum. Stage into our... Oh! Uh-oh. That could have been a little weird. We got a little bumpy. Got a little bumpy on the way out of that stage. It's fine, though. All right. Now we're into our Rhino, and I feel a little bit better doing physics warp. Now my hope is that this this stage with the Rhino will get us at least like a third of the way to Eeloo. We might do a little better than that. It's hard to predict. Oh, come on. What was that? Unbelievable. All right, that's going to be far too inefficient to try and climb out that way. I don't know why that happened. Maybe I had an intersect and didn't realize it. I didn't lose any parts on that, did I? Nope. But all right, so I'm gonna, in order to take advantage of the Oberth effect, I'm gonna get back in closer to the gravity well and give it a burn down near the periapsis. That was super annoying. Spin this around. There we go. See how much better that's going? All right, now let's Kraken insurance. In case some of that nonsense happens again. Okay. Let me make sure we're all intact. All right, looks good. Now, just getting a quick preview of what it's going to take for Delta V to get out to Eeloo. And this is going to be pretty close to an optimal burn. About 3,000 Delta V. This Rhino stage is going to get us, I think, about like 2,000. Because these numbers are not always especially accurate. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to time warp for a bit. Oh, did it put us back into Kerbal? No. I'm going to time warp us for a bit. And wait for Eeloo to get into position. So I'm going to fast forward this just while we're waiting. Alright, it looks like Eeloo's probably going to be in a better position. Now, there is one thing I just noticed that's bugging me. Jewel. Jewel around here might get in the way. But let's see what happens. We'll just get a quick idea about our maneuver node. Yeah, look what Jewel was doing. You see that? All right. Now, let's see if I can... Jewel is going to be an issue. Oh. Not bad. All right. I would prefer the intercept be out here, but this is actually good. It shows that we're on like kind of the right track. And I don't, you know, in some of the more recent vids, when I've been at this particular stage, I've clipped this out because this can be a really tedious process. I'm trying to show it to you here. Because this is, in my opinion anyway, the most... Oh, crud. The frickin' UI. This is the most difficult intercept in the game. Just making some real fine... Nice. All right. 3,081 meters per second of Delta V. That is a really good deal for an intercept with Eeloo. Now, what I'm going to do... I'm going to do this burn. I'm going to get myself as close to that as I can. And then, like, out here, I'm going to use RCS. I'm going to focus my view on Eeloo so that I can see, you know, the tan line going through the sphere of influence. And I'm going to use RCS to do some very fine adjustments back here and adjust the intercept. And you're going to see that even like quick little half-second puffs of RCS will generate pretty significant results out at Eeloo. And I'm going to get a little bit closer to the maneuver node than normal, because with this sort of a thing, being a little bit more precise actually ends up mattering quite a bit. As a matter of fact, once I get a little closer there, I'm going to set my stability assist to center on the maneuver node instead of the direction I leave it. And not messing around. All right, gonna save. We're saved. Punch it. Okay. And now this is going to take a while once we get out of this Rhino and into the nuclear stuff. Normally, you know, I would clip this, but this time I'm going to show the whole thing and just try and fast forward through the spots. So forgive me if there are a few spots where, you know, we're just fast forwarding for like 2 minutes or so, but with this particular mission, the focus is on the intercept. Like the mission to land on Eeloo, the focus was on the landing on Eeloo. With Lethe, the focus was on like taking off from Lethe. You know, those are what I wanted to highlight. So clipping out like burning some trans stage for 5 minutes was fine. It didn't really matter. With this mission, the intercept is the point, and that's, you know, that's what we're doing right here. So I'm going to show you the whole thing without any cuts, and we're going to speed up a bit. Okay. We have an intercept with Eeloo. That was too easy. Something's going to explode. I'm going to save. I realize that I just made that look really easy. It's not, I promise. That whole rigmarole I went through with getting the maneuver node and the burn, and that's usually a lot more of a problem. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to time warp till I'm about, you know, out here past Duna. And then we're going to focus our view, our camera view, on Eeloo and see what our intercept actually looks like. And then we're going to use some reaction control to do some fine adjustments. So let me just take a quick look. All right, that's a really basic kind of a... Now see here, by focusing our view on Eeloo, we can see our intercept. Nice trick, huh? So now I'm just going to... All I'm going to be using, right? All I'm going to be using is RCS, little puffs. And see how much of a difference it's making? We're doing all this just with monopropellant. And this is really the main reason why I took so much, is so that at this stage, right here, I have a real comfortable margin for safety where I can do a whole bunch of RCS, get some little puffs going. All right, and it looks like, so what I'm looking at here, all right, Eeloo periapsis, T minus 2 years, 292 days, 1 hour. Exiting Eeloo, 2 years, 295 days, 1 hour. So I've got at least a few days to transit Eeloo. That gives me more than enough time for my deceleration burn. So that's the main thing I was kind of looking at. So I'm just going to use a little bit of physics warp to speed up this RCS stuff. How's that? How's that for an Eeloo intercept? Whoop. All right, good enough. Got a little carried away. So that'll be fine. And that is, by the way, like, even though we're coming in slightly inclined, if you look at the ecliptic, that's actually really close to an equatorial intercept. So that actually turned out really well. Now, excuse me. Been talking a lot today. From here, I'm just going to switch my view over to this derelict lander, and then switch it back to our Talos X, our Eeloo mission, and that'll reset the camera. Okay. So now it's save. And fast forward. And we're literally just going to be time warping. Now, I am going to take a minute to explain one thing before I start fast forwarding through this clip, because this is going to take a few minutes. Astute viewers will have noticed that we do not yet have our contract for the Easter egg on Eeloo. The reason for that is, in order to be eligible for the contract, we need to have, for any of the contracts for the Easter eggs, we need to have orbited the body in question. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to get this mission into orbit around Eeloo. Then I'm going to go back to KSC and pick up the contract for the surface anomaly. That'll give us the waypoint so we know where to land. I don't think I have done this Easter egg. I may have done it in like sandbox mode maybe once. But I don't think I've done it in career. So this might, yeah, I think I'm pretty sure this is my first time going to this particular thing on Eeloo, because it's new. It was added in one of the more recent patches. So I'm not entirely sure where it is on the surface. I don't know if it's on the equatorial plane. I don't know if it's way up in the polar cap. I'm not sure. So we'll find out when we get there. But I'm going to fast forward for a minute or two here. Alright, we're just about here at Eeloo. It's about to get real. So close. So close we can smell it. We can smell that Eeloosian snow. Now I just gotta hope I'm actually going to be coming into orbit from the correct side. And I believe that we are, but if not, that will have been a pretty significant mistake. Okay, good. We did it! We got to Eeloo! It's within sight. Now, something I want to do is I'm going to do a bunch of the science off of the lander's instruments here. And collect all this into the collection module there. All right, so who wants to do the first EVA? We'll let the scientist do the first Kerbal EVA out at Eeloo. How cool is that? All right. All right, so we're going to do our retro burn a bit closer to the periapsis. And if you look down here, we've only got 1,700 meters per second of speed. That's not bad for intercepting something so far away to come in this close with that little delta V to burn in order to circularize. That's not bad at all. This actually ended up being a very good interception. I promise I have had intercepts with Eeloo that have not gone this well. With lots of trial and error, and reloading, and reverting to launch, and oops, I forgot a part. You know, it can go a lot worse. This has actually gone fairly smooth, and I'm waiting for something to explode. So this retro burn is going to take a minute, so I'm going to fast forward through this. Oh, how about that? We are in orbit around Eeloo. We're still in our nuclear stage. We have upwards of 2,000 delta V left. Not bad. So now we're going to go back to our space center and we're going to check the contracts. And maybe we'll get plant the flag or something, or science from the surface. We'll see, because Eeloo contracts are worth quite a bit. Remembering, of course, that anything we get here is going to be money. Okay, there we go. Perfect. All right, we don't care about Vol, Lethe. Kilo 6 expedition. Oh, gosh. In one go? For only... Yeah, nope. Crash course for Bop. Well, that one can be an unmanned probe, but I'm not going to do it for right now. Again, if I was doing this, that's cool, but if I was doing this not for episodes, I might actually do some of those contracts. But for right now, yeah, nothing. Alright. Let's go back to Eeloo and see where our artificial structure is. Interesting. I see we've got our waypoint on the surface. Oh my goodness. Okay, that was total skill. I planned from the beginning, from the moment we launched, at exactly the right time of day, just the right time of year. All those maneuvers were all skill to come in here and make sure that our orbit was inclined just right to land on the Eeloo Easter egg in the middle of the day. If you don't get that on your first try, then you need to learn to play. You have a skill issue. That's what War Thunder players would be saying. In reality, that was some incredibly good luck. Incredibly good luck. All right, so I'm going to be spending a lot of Delta V out of this nuclear stage to adjust my orbit and inclination and everything else so that we're like just right. In order to set the lander down on the point of interest. And I'm going to be doing that because I don't want to waste a lot of Delta V out of our descent stage. Oh, I was totally going the wrong way because I'm an idiot. Derp. Yeah, there we go. Come on. All right. Now I'm thinking I'll get down here and incline a little bit more this way. Not bad. All right. Now these again, these orbital adjustments that we're doing, these are to get ourselves on a better angle for the landing with the lander. And I'm just trying to, use as much of the Delta V that I know I'm going to need to use up here out of these nuclear stages where I've got ridiculous amounts of Delta V to spare instead of out of the lander where it actually counts. And it may not be strictly necessary to do this, but, to this point in the career, like, even my mission to Tilo and Lethe, I'm kind of a sloppy player. If you haven't noticed by now, I'll just mention it flat out. Like, I'm kind of a sloppy player. But I do want to demonstrate that, I can play with a little bit more precision and finesse than I have been. I'm usually just a little too lazy. But on this mission, it makes enough of a difference. All right, which one of these is going to be going down to the surface? I think it was Reyes. All right. Now we're gonna time warp a little bit until we get another day around Eeloo, and our Easter egg is in a better position for the landing. Probably one more go around. Maybe two more goes around? Nope. All right, that could have been one more. All right, so I'm going to reload just to get back to that point on the orbit. It's not really a big cheat. I'm just saving a little time. Alright, so we've got our lander with our crew member. Save for Kraken insurance. Down we go. Okay. Now let's begin a descent. That'll bring us down to 17,000. That's decent. Alright, let's warp to there and see how things look. Alright, coming along very well. And I think, like, right about here is where I'm going to try and land. Saving for safety. Let's warp to about here. All right, we may have misestimated that a little bit. That's okay. All right, so we're gonna miss our precision landing. So I knew something was gonna go wrong. You know, the mission was just going too smooth to not have any problems. So I'll try to fix it. You have to excuse me for not having a lot to say. I'm just trying to. This is a problem. I'm uh, I'm using a lot more delta V for these corrections than I'd really hoped, but I don't want to come all this way and miss it. All right, we're coming down almost right on top of it. I'm hopeful it's going to be close enough to walk, but I might run out of delta V. We're still we're still tugging this thing around for some reason. That's interesting. Oh, look. All right, we're like right on it, whatever it is. Whoop, 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 whoop. Okay, we've landed on Eeloo. I don't know if that's going to be enough fuel, But we'll see. We're here. All right, let's get our science. Now, the good news is all we have to do is get back in orbit at all, and we'll be able to fix whatever problems we ran into with the return ship, because that's got thousands and thousands of Delta V. Yeah, this was a really inefficient landing, but it ended up being really accurate. Look at how close this is. This is less than a kilometer away from a target on Eeloo on the first attempt. And we have a snowman made out of rocket parts. How fun is that? All right, let's plant our flag. We found a snowman. Is that 300 meters? Yeah, we were like 300 meters away to a precision landing on Eeloo. I'm gonna be a little happy about that. Spent more Delta V than I wanted to. That is for sure a problem. And I don't know if we're going to get back into orbit. But I'm going to make a good try. Okay. All right, I think we'll be all right. Okay. Yeah, we're going to be fine. How awesome is that? Whoo! All right. Now let me see what it'll take. No, you know what? I'll just make this even easier on myself. I'll just circularize to equatorial. Or as close to it as I can. Now this says I've got 1,000 Delta V left, and I might, because, you know, this little thing doesn't weigh much. Okay, we are right on an equatorial orbit. Not bad. All right. We had a rough spot with the landing, but it turned out okay. I'm very satisfied with how it went. Now, what I got to do first is I got to raise our orbit. And the purpose of this is just to make it so that we can do these plane shift adjustments without any risk of like smacking the surface by accident or something like that. All right, good. Now I think it's... Nope. As always, I am dyslexic with my nodes. And I won't get this in one burn. I'm gonna have to go around a little bit, but we'll get a bunch of it. We'll get a bunch of it. Will apparently also gain quite a bit of velocity. Alright, and we're just going to be fixing our inclination. Easy peasy. Now from here, the rendezvous stuff will be a lot more simple. Yep, alright, it's kind of what I thought. Whoops. A little too far, a little carried away. And we're just gonna get close and cancel out, do the normal thing where we cancel out our relative velocity. Sort of do it incrementally, step by step. This isn't always the most efficient way to do an intercept, but it is one of the easiest. And I am a big fan of the easy way. Just making some fine adjustments here. Alright, let's cancel out our relative velocity. Whoop, a little too far. Alright, and we'll orient our hatch. Okay, here it goes. All right, here goes everything. Leap of faith. Out in orbit of Eeloo. Oh, man. I know, you know, even though I've recorded the majority of these videos before they've been published, like, you know, I think at the time of recording this, only like episode 6 or 7 has been published. I'm sure people have been watching these and seeing me do these like leap of faith EVAs out in the orbit of Vol and stuff and just cringing at how risky this is. But, yeah, no big deal. This is just, you know, it's how I do it. It saves me the trouble of having to dock. Which really is just about saving time. Almost there. Getting close. We got our helmet lights on, so... Look at how small the sun is this far away. We are out in the middle of nowhere. Way out yonder. Ooh. Okay. Awesome. And you know, we didn't get the contract complete. I'm just gonna, you know, you guys all saw me land there. I'm just gonna cheat the contract out. All right. So now we got to get out of Eeloo and get back to Kerbal. This is where the fun begins. Now, not much time has passed since we got here. So we should theoretically still be in a relatively good plane. Yeah, we're still really close to the good plane to get back to Kerbal. The real question is going to be whether or not we're going to be aligned. Yeah, we're getting farther away from it because we're moving real slow out of Eeloo here. Damn that low gravity. It's like weeks and months just to escape out of Eeloo. Hurry up. Get us out of there. All right. Now, maybe we're going to get lucky. Uh. Nice. All right. This is going to be a sloppy mess. But only 1600 delta V in order to make that intercept. Now, when we get into Kerbal, we're probably going to have an enormous amount of speed to bleed off. But the good news is we've still got huge amounts of delta V left. And again, because this burn, the precision matters, I'm going to set my autopilot to go right to the maneuver node. And we're going to start to burn, watching our fuel, and we're going to speed up and save. And I'll fast forward a little bit through this burn because it's going to take a while. Okay, we've got our intercept. Now I'm going to use a familiar trick. All right, we've only got a couple of hours inside of Kerbal's sphere of influence. So this is actually going to be a really high speed a really high speed kind of an intercept here. It's going to be tough. Just trying to carefully bring our trajectory in, using monopropellant, same as we did before. This is a very useful trick with these long distance missions. I mean, if you really, if you were careful and really wanted to be on the ball with like some of your precision, you could use that same method even for intercepts like out to Minmus, and it would still work. All right, so I'm going to go back to the Space Center. And then back into our Eeloo mission, our Boethia 1, which we didn't bother to name. It occurs to me the last couple of missions I've been forgetting to name it in advance. I should do that correctly for Moho and Eve. Come on, hurry up and load. All right. Let me get to the tracking station here. And again, I'm sure there's a way to refocus the camera that I just don't know about, and I'm sure by now someone's already commented. And that's fine. Come on. Come on. All right. So this is going to be another long fast forward. So I'm just gonna fast forward this rather than clip it, because again, with this mission to Eeloo, the intercepts and everything have been the whole point of the mission, and I want to make sure you see the whole thing uninterrupted. All right, we are just about back to Kerbin. So it's going to be the moment of truth here in a minute. We're going to see how much delta V we have to bleed off. It's probably going to be like 5,000 or 6,000 meters per second, because we're cruising through Kerbin here. Ooh. Yeah, and of course we're going the wrong way. That's fun. All right, let me see. All right, that's worth it, because I have delta V to spare. Whoa. All right. So I'm going to zip in here. This actually ended up being not bad. I mean, you know, it was a bit of delta V to correct that so that when we decelerate, we're going to be orbiting the right way. But, you know, we have delta V to spare, because this is a really overbuilt mission. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start our retro burn basically from like right at the periapsis. Whoop. All right, so yeah, we've got 4,500 delta V to kill. And I'm just going to go right into a re-entry burn from here. This will take a little while, so I'm going to fast forward through it. But again, we have more than enough delta V. Even if we get into our ion stuff, we're going to be like, I mean, yeah, look at this. We got back to Kerbin, and we didn't even touch our ion drive. Just fine on delta V. And, you know, we had the funding to spare, so I would rather overbuild this mission and get back to Kerbin with 10,000 surplus delta V. rather than find myself like 500 short and stranded and screwed and having just wasted the last 2 hours. Speaking of which, this is turning into a very long episode, but we're almost done. Finish line is in sight, and I'm gonna fast forward this while we decelerate. And just to improve my thrust to weight ratio, because I have so much delta V to spare, I'm going to ditch the asparagus xenon tanks, because we don't need them. And it was just extra weight. Alright, so we have circularized and brought our orbit down quite a bit. I'd prefer to land on the light side. So I'm just going to spin around to the back here. Oops. Try that again. Oh, geez, we got intercepts with the moon coming up. All right. Now this will be our final deceleration burn. Then we will have landed back at Kerbal from our mission to Eeloo in one go here. Not bad. Come on. And you see we're on the dark side of the planet. Look at our electric charge. Yeah, that's an issue. And now that we're back in the light, the electric drain is mitigated a little bit. You know, it's just taking way too long. I'm just going to land on the dark side. I really didn't want to, but at the end of the day, it's not going to make any difference, and I don't want to spend another 10 minutes this late into the mission just bringing down my apoapsis doing charge burn stuff. So we'll get our periapsis down to 30,000 for our standard re-entry profile. Okay. Save. And we are go for re-entry from Eeloo. This was certainly quite the mission. I I'm still very, very pleased at how lucky we got with the intercept out to Eeloo. That landing, despite wasting a lot of Delta V futzing around with the trajectory, it ended up being very accurate. Was it 300 meters away from a target on Eeloo? Like the farthest body in the solar system. Not bad. I'm gonna be happy about that. We of course planted our flag right at the snowman. We got back in one shot. We had enormous amounts of Delta V to spare out in our ion stages. It all went pretty well. All things considered. And where are we? I can't tell. That almost looks like we might be back near KSC. Anyway, that was one heck of a mission. And one heck of a long episode. All right, so I'm gonna call it here. This will be the end of the episode here. We only have 2 landings left, but it's gonna be more than 2 episodes because I have to do some prep work in regards to Eve to make sure that we have something close to a safe landing. So you'll see that probably in the next episode here, getting ready for that. But for the time being, I'm going to say, as always, thanks for watching.